What's happening on Hashknife Ranch this week? That's exactly what we talk about. Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen. My co-host happens to be my father, Brandon. And wrong way, that way. There we go. I can't deal with these mirrored images. It's throwing me. He's the other face you see on the screen. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this wonderful Hashknife channel. If you want to see more of the Hashknife Ranch, please check us out on the social media at Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, and Twitter. Those handles are below if you are interested. Thanks for coming back to our continuous followers. And I just lost my headphones for whatever reason. And we're moving on. Dealing with technical problems today, people. Today's topic is going to be, like I said, the ranch, the happenings and the go-and-tos of what's going on with the Hashknife Ranch. So with that, I will hand it over to Dad while I try and get in my earpiece and start this puppy up.
So I don't know. It's just a normal week. Lots of things going wrong, some things going right. You hope that the right things are stretching out further than the bad things. But we preconditioned a couple weeks ago, meaning given shots, the booster shots to the market calves and worm them, getting them ready to leave mom and be adults on their own. And they are not going to be thrilled. No. So it's just the way it is. Another crop of calves. So we've actually got these guys trying to market through a broker and doing what we can, kind of their price is floating around what we want for them, which is less than I want. But, I mean, it's all based on the futures market. We've talked about that before. And so what's a reasonable price? And the guy who's doing it, he's staying right on top of things, and he gives me calls, keeps updates, and we just watch that price kind of float around a little bit up and down, depending on what the futures market is that day. So if we don't have any takers, then what we'll do is we'll scoop them up and then take them to town like we normally do. We can't hold them forever. That's the problem with a commodity like this, and you don't have a bin to store them in like you do grain, where you can hold them for a few years, and when the market's better, you go ahead and sell, and then as soon as you sell, the price goes up. That's the way it is for farmers too. It usually seems to work that way. But so we got to go with them. We got a limited amount of grass, and we've only got so much hay to get us through the winter. So I got 2 more loads of hay to bring in, and we will have everything in to get us through for horse hay for a couple of years and cow hay for the winter. So that was the big deal. But one of the complications on that is I went out to get a truck unloaded and start the tractor, warm it up, and noticed, I got a great big 5.5 foot tire, a rear driver on that thing that was going flat. And so that was not a warm, fuzzy feeling. So I got to pump back up, plumped her up, and crossed my fingers and said all kinds of little non-cursive type things that would keep that thing from going flat. Well, we got it unloaded, just keep an eye on it. And I got a spot there between loads where we can get it off of the tractor and onto a trailer, and took it to town, got it fixed, and brought it back, and was actually able to fix it. So if we'd have had a service charge or service call come out to do it all here at the ranch, just the service charge for them to come up, the mileage alone would have been $340 almost $350. And then the charge to fix it. So I loaded it up for the price of a tank of fuel. So you're looking at $125 or so, $130.5 to take it to town. And they fixed it, put a new tube in it, put some boots in it, and got us going again instead of buying a new tire. So that was a $291 for a tire repair instead of, new tire to been up there around $2,000. So, that's a good win. That's one of the good things that outpaces the bad things. But, it all starts with, dang it, got a flat tire. So, it's just what happens. So, we got kind of lucky on that, even though when you say a flat tire is good luck, that's shows you where we're at and where our head's at and how you have to look at things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And while you were talking and I was wholly unprepared trying to get everything fixed and resorted here, I was listening. I put down notes before we even started filming of the things we are going to talk about. You just covered more stuff. So if anybody wants to spark notes to what we're going to talk about today, you just have it. You can move on to the other videos. So thanks for joining. Anyway,
And
the
we'll have a video of this whole tractor tire caper too at
yeah,
some
well,
point. Yeah.
I was going to say that, and then we also have a wonderful draft video that I worked tirelessly on. One of the ramblings I'm the most proud of. I'm not gonna lie. I spent I without like really trying, I spent about 2.5 hours editing this puppy. With all the overlays that I put on there,
Oh
the
my
the
God.
splits and cuts, and it's absolutely entertaining. The entire time I was watching it, I was still laughing, and it was a video that I did with my mother. So you don't have to look at just my ugly mug or dad's ugly mug. He's not even gonna be there. It's gonna be mom, and it's coming out in early December, and I'm super excited for people to see it because I think they're gonna enjoy it. But I digress. The the video of the flat tire is going to be good because that'll come out soon once I get the footage from dad. But we'll start with the first one, which is the preconditioning. We talked about it a little bit, I think, last time. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago. So, how did that go? We talked about what was supposed to happen. You're gonna pick up everybody, give them their flu shot, so to speak.
Right.
Braden was coming down to help. So how did that go, and what exactly happened?
Went really easy. Couldn't have went any better. He and I went out horseback. Um, his girlfriend Bailey came, and
What?
yeah, I know.
Braden's got a side piece.
I know we got some big news there. He never says a word.
No, he doesn't.
Which when we found out about her, we were sitting grabbing I don't know, we were gonna go grab some lunch or something, and went to a new brewery that wasn't serving yet. So we sat and had a flight of beers, and he says, "Okay, here's some news. You're each are allowed 3 questions," and that's it. I was like, "What?" Yeah, I met somebody. So he never says anything. So anyway, he brought her. Turns out he doesn't deserve her. She's
Shocking.
really, yeah, yeah. She's a lot of fun. She's wicked smart. You can just tell,
Definitely not his
first
type.
5 minutes, and sarcastic and smart aleck, and yeah, but it's
Hmm.
sweet at the same time. Loves animals. Guess what his dog did not do
I
when she
heard.
met her?
I'm a little upset about it because I've been around this dog for the last couple of years when I come home,
Yep.
and she always barks at me and takes at least 40. Now we've gotten down to within 24 to 48 hours, she'll calm down. She doesn't like me necessarily. She'll kind of snarl, but she's like, oh, okay, now it's Calen. And then when she realizes who it is, she's like, okay, she's fine. But it's been
Yeah.
taking me 3 years to get to the point where she won't bark whatsoever. And I heard
But
she
she's
didn't
with this
bark
with
whatsoever.
everybody. This is the only person that she has never barked at. And she's a dog lover.
Trash.
And it's like, yeah, it's amazing. So anyway, she and your mom were shaking a bucket around, and Connie was in a pickup shaking some buckets, and he and I were horseback and brought them all in, and pretty easily got them sorted, and just ran them up the chute, put the head catch on that frame that I put out there in the middle of nowhere, and bolted it up the day before, had it all ready to go. And so I think we were done in 2 hours from the
That's
time we
pretty good.
started after sorting. I mean, it takes a while to gather and sort, but yeah, we were doing well. It worked out really, really well. So got that done and came back, and then didn't do a heck of a lot the rest of the day. Just kind of took it easy because I think it was a Sunday. Yeah, I think it was a Sunday anyway. We just kind
Did,
of
did
laid back.
you by chance um did you at all did you deal with the cows at all in terms of like delousing and stuff, or was it only the calves for preconditioning?
Yeah, just the cows for preconditioning, because we'll do the cows when we preg test in
Okay.
another month. So yeah, there's no sense in doing them all at once when those calves are really the priority. And no sense in running those cows through a chute twice just to worm them once and then do it again when you're going to give them shots and preg tests. So yeah, we'll just
Okay.
wait a month.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You said 2 hours. That's pretty good. What'd you guys do? Just like
Zip
was it
zip.
nice? Was it just nice and quiet and efficient because you didn't have extra hands there, or like what happened?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we could have done it a little bit faster because those facilities are, just kind of ramshackle together. It
Oh,
works,
because
but it's
I
not what.
forget you're talking about over in the lease, not even on
Yeah,
the. I
yeah,
forget about that.
not in our home corrals. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but we got Bailey and Connie were Bailey was worming, Connie was vaccinating, I was using the head catch and vaccinating, and your mom was keeping track of everything. So then mom and or Connie and Bailey then switched. She'd never vaccinated before, so got her in on that and showed her how, and yeah, it worked out really well.
Nice.
Everything's
Okay.
good.
What was the temperature like? What was the weather like?
Oh, it was by the time we were done, I think we were pushing 70 degrees.
Oh, it's a little warmer than I expected, but
Yeah, it was 60 like high 50s when by the time we got kind of started, and that morning was like 40 41 something like that when we started, but by the time we got him in the corral and everything was it was getting up there closer to mid 50s, and then by the time we started pushing him up the chute about, you know, 65
mhm.
to 70, kind of ended at about 70.
Yeah. Moving on to the calf sales for the fall. We've talked about last time you're going to try and do a different route if possible. You alluded to it before in the intro piece. You've kind of, in a weird way, if anybody knows anything about like stocks and trading and stuff like that, you kind of got the calves on like a money book where you're like, hey, if you're interested in this price, I'll sell them. It's kind of
Right,
that, and people can pick at it and click and say, yeah, I'll take them.
right.
Roughly the same amount of head. It also tells them the color as well. We do happen to have some blacks in there, unfortunately. Somebody bull jumped the fence, but no big deal. It's a big deal, but it's no big deal. The It's just a nice way to kind of look through, see what you want as a broker or a maybe a
The
feedlot.
buyer. Yeah.
Buy them, pick them up, and then resell or fatten them, and then sell them at a later time. Uh,
Yeah, these calves will be doing that. They'll be going to a backgrounder or a stalker.
mhm.
They'll 550, 575 to they'll take them up to about 1,000 pounds and then sell them to a feedlot that'll take them up there around 1,400 for by the time they're slaughtered. So they're kind of a middleman.
Yeah. So my question is, with this being a slightly different way from what we normally do, walk us through the process of getting to where you got this year for trying to do it this way. How did you do it? Who'd you talk to? Who'd you deal with? And then if this just doesn't work out because you said something earlier, I don't remember if this was before we started filming or not, but you said something about they just haven't been picked up yet, so you may end up going the old fashioned route.
Yeah.
Can you just walk me through all that and the viewers,
Well,
I guess.
yeah, in this technology and this age that we're in is a can be amazingly easy to do things and to contact people, and people that are having a business that also has good service makes it easy,
Yeah.
and they do, and literally I went to their website. I've seen them advertised. They're fairly local. They're pretty close to us, and I've seen them the last couple of years. But we're trying to work with one broker that I had last year, and then everything went south with drought and everything. I mean, people were backing out on the buyer to where she could buy cattle and send them somewhere. Well, the people she was sending them to were saying, "Nah, we're not taking any cattle." So, I mean, there's a huge wreck there. Not just her. It's there were a lot of buyers in that same boat. Um, and so I thought, well, you know what? Let's give him a call. They're kind of specializing to people that are like us that don't quite have that full pot load of cattle to
Right.
go. And they'll piece a couple together. The one thing that we would do, um, the same as we always have, is we would go ahead and haul these cattle to them. It's, I mean, nothing different than what we're used to doing. So,
Right.
but it was as easy as I got on their website and and I'm checking them out, every way you can, and looking for the good, looking for the bad, and then basically just give him a phone call. Started talking to him, explained what we wanted to do, ask him what they did, and he says, "You know what do you want for your calves? This is about what they're running with the futures." He says, "We can start here wherever you want to put them." But he said he's honest. He goes, "You price them too high, nobody's going to buy them." Well,
Right.
that's everybody knows that, but that expectation is there. Some people think because they own them, they should get twice what the going market is, and that's just not the way that works.
Right.
So we
Being
we
realistic
talked,
about it.
being realistic about it. That's right. You don't want to undersell yourself either. So finding a good price where somebody's going to be fine buying them and you're going to be fine selling them. That's the best you can hope for, really. And so it was a matter of letting them know, we'll have them preconditioned by this date, and that way they're available, a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks after that vaccination date or the preconditioning date. Give that, the vaccine a time to work, and the wormer time to work, and then they're ready to go for anybody. And then he'll give us a call. But he said, well, we'll just advertise them. This is what they do on their website as well. And then he's got people that he reaches out to, lots of backgrounders or stalkers that take cattle, and they'll just tell them what we got and do you want them. And so, we're at that point. We're getting to where, they're about ready to go because of the time since we vaccinated. You don't want to vaccinate and then send them the next day. That doesn't really do any good for anybody. So, it took time, and we're ready now to ship those cattle whenever somebody wants to pick them up. And
Well,
usually they'll wait till the last minute and go, yeah, we'll take them now. We want to fill a load up, and
right.
can you deliver them in 2 days? That kind of thing. So
I should ask. I went on to Cattle Market Connections. I'm curious, what do you have them priced at right now? Because
well, it
I
floats
did try
around.
to ask for Montana specific prices, and it's just giving me generic. So I'll tell you
Yeah,
that. But
well, if you can see them specifically, if you go on there and then go to stockyards, on their kind of their menu at the top, and then you click on that, you'll find him in there. He's just got him listed under his local place, and then he's got lots of cattle for the stockyard groups,
and
and it'll say Park City.
I was asking about specific price because the current futures today closed at 175.57. So
Yeah, but and that's what I'm saying. I mean, it'll say on that site, it shows the cattle, or if he's got the video up, it'll show that the what the current price is, and we're kind of floating with the market on the futures. It'll show what the steers are being asked for and what the heifers are being asked for.
right.
And you see it there. It says Park City reds with about 20% mixed blacks.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where it's at right now, but yeah, I'm just looking at the futures, but
Yeah,
I mean,
we're at about $1.95 on the steers, and then about $1.82 or so on the
okay.
$1.80 on the heifers here a few days ago.
A little high currently, but that was not high earlier this year, so that's
Right.
completely understandable.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, what's the point of no return where you're like, all right, I just gotta take these calves to the local auction yard and we'll do it.
Yeah, first week in November, when we
Okay.
bring everybody home, we'll probably just trail everybody home from the summer pasture, and then that next day or whatever the next day is, prior to sale day, then we'll just bring everybody in, gather, sort, and haul them to town.
And
There's
sale day being Friday, right?
well, Wednesdays and Fridays usually at that
Yeah.
place where we go to. But one of the issues, there is, which is nice with these guys, is that you're not locked into a contract. They don't say, oh yeah, we're going to guarantee this and this is what you're going to get. And like he said, you know what? If they don't sell by a certain date, we're not out anything. He's got
Right.
some advertising, and if they sell, then they take 2% of what they bring, and which is reasonable. I mean, they got to make some money,
Yep.
And so I'll, contact him a week or so ahead of time and say, okay, if you've got somebody, let's, because I'd rather go through them if you can, and then you're not getting charged yardage fees and all kinds of extra stuff. And then you kind of control what you're willing to say yes to or no to as well. So give them a little bit of time to work them. I won't just at the last minute say, yeah, we're not going to do this and then go. Give them some time to try to go ahead and sell them and have them make some money on it. And if not, then they just go to town. And we take the chance of what you take. It's the gamble of market day.
Right. Which leads to another point that we had talked about earlier. And it's always a point for us because, I mean, it's important. The reason why you're actually kind of trying to time things in a way is because of the use of grass, hay, and just resources, because hay is expensive. It has been for the last couple of years, more so than usual. Also due to the drought. We've had conversations about that in the past. Got it. But part of the reason why you're also looking to get rid of these calves is because they will consume more hay
Right.
than expected if you don't get rid of them.
Right.
People might be like, well, why don't you just wait until, next spring, maybe hold on to them. Like you said, we can't really support that because we don't have the hay to support that. We'd only get halfway through the winter and then all of a sudden we'd be looking at empty hay yard. So talk me through,
Well, you can't.
share with the class about the hay issues we've had this year.
Well, I mean, it's the same as it was last year, really. I mean, we get a little bit more hay available in the country here locally, but the price is still high. And so, you got to buy what you got to buy. And we were going to buy some triticale, had that all planned, actually brought a load in, and it was garbage.
You said, you told me when we were, I think, on another call, that it had looked one way before when you'd been with the guy that we
Yeah.
work with actually quite a bit. It looked really great. And then when this
Mhm.
stuff came in, it was not the same stuff you had looked at. And I don't
Nope.
think that was on him on purpose or anything like that. It just something happened during that process that
Yeah.
it got mixed up.
Yeah. There's something going on there. So um, we've got about half of it sent back. The other half will go. And, I committed to 150 ton of grass hay, which we're going to do that. But I had to look for some replacement hay, on that, for the cows basically. And, some of the grass hay, I've got some grass hay for horses, some really good grass hay in. So we'll feed some of this grass hay that we're getting from him and some alfalfa out to the cows. But it's been a struggle. It's everybody's doing the same thing. There's a good share of hay out there, and guys that are producing it are still liking last year's prices. And so there's not been a lot of hay moving until lately, and the prices come down a little bit. So that's not bad. That's for us.
Which
It's
again
still
led
it's still bad. It's still bad because you can't continue to keep all your calves for 2 more
right,
months, because then that eats into those reserves, and then you've actually spent more money feeding the calf than what they're worth. I mean,
right.
that's a bad thing when your overhead is more than your income.
Which was the point that I kept stressing last year,
Yeah.
which is those guys are going to end up
Hmm.
running out their customer base by overcharging.
Right.
So they're going to charge and charge and charge, and you're seeing it the last 2 years. Livestock producers are saying, I'm out. I'm just going to sell them all," and they have. They've liquidated entire herds,
Right.
or if not entire herds, the vast majority. And I'm talking like 75 to 80% of their herd is now gone. And suddenly, when the hay producers look back and they go, "Well, where's the guys that have been trying to talk to you about hay the last couple of years? They're not here." I'm like, "Well, dude, like." You overpriced the last 2 years and people can't afford it, and
Yeah.
they can only understand so much until suddenly it just doesn't work anymore. Like they can't physically afford it. So
Well,
hey,
and
you ran yourself out of business.
there's some gouging that's been going on, but there's also, understandably, the price of fuel is up, and we
Right.
talked about that.
Right.
Uh, Price of fertilizer is up, fuel, cost of everything that it takes, whether you're using twine or net wrap, to go into that bale. Those are all expenses that have increased on their part too. So electricity, depending on where you're at, for pivots or water, if you had enough water, you may not have had as much hay as well. So there's a lot of factors into that. It isn't just greed. There's some on some people's part here and there, but that's the nature of the human condition, is that when you have something, you think it's worth more than anybody else's. And so, but you're also in a buyer's market as well this year, where you weren't last year. You're in a seller's market. It's evened out a little bit more. Still a buyer's market, to a point, but sellers are holding that up, wanting last year's prices, wanting to make some money on it. So,
Yeah, and
um,
I'm trying to look up some hay prices right now while you're talking, and here's the thing, here's a pet peeve of mine. I think I know what they're talking about in terms of what the prices are going for, but I'd like to know your input before you go on to more of what you're about to say. Uh, do you prefer price by bale or price by ton?
well, generally when somebody's selling something by price per bale, when you figure it out by the ton what that bale weighs, and then you figure it out by the ton, it's a hell of a lot more pricey by the bale, which
Mhm.
is, kind of it's kind of gimmicky. But there are a lot of people that don't have a lot of need for, you know, 3,000 bales, you
Yeah.
know, or, something like, or more. They're only needing 10 bales, in which, for, if you're going to sell, some grass, big grass, round alfalfa or grass bales, or some big square bales in grass, you're probably looking at 1,200 pounds a piece, so you still figure that out per ton, per pound, and you're going to pay a premium when you're paying by the bale. So I don't figure by the bale. I figure how many ton do we need, and if we
Right.
feed out, 3 bales a day or 3.5 bales a day based on whatever our needs are, and kind of maintain a body weight on a cow and some yearlings or whatever you're keeping in your bulls over the winter. You feed what you have to feed so that they're eating, but they're not necessarily gaining weight. You just want to maintain in the wintertime if you can. Just get through the winter and keep a decent body score on them. And there's some cows, you can tell the ones that are stressed, they don't look as good. And when normally our cows, the vet says are too fat. And so some of these are, more than what he would think are good. And he might even think a couple of these are thin. I do. So, we'll probably call them out, and they're not conditioned. But before I do that, I want to look at their calf. Are they putting everything they have into that calf and not themselves? And if they are in these conditions and that calf looks good, maybe you take a second look at whether or not you get rid of a cow like that.
Right. The final question I have for Hay, how much of it has arrived? Do you have all of it? 90% of it? 75% of it?
We have got we got 330 some ton coming in, 340 ton, and I think we have got about 50 ton left to come in.
Okay, so you're
55 ton.
sitting about 280, 290 maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mostly in. Two more
The
truckloads.
people might think that's a lot. And it is, but that's what happens
But
when you
it's
have a 9 month winter.
right. Yeah. And 3 months of poor skiing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly. Uh the hay directly resulted in the flat tire fiasco. So please share with the group what happened with the flat tire. Why did that come about?
well, it just, was age, on a tube. And apparently when they opened it up, these guys at the tire shop, I mean, they can tell what's gone on with tires. And I did not want the tire to completely go flat. It was just losing air.
Yeah.
But it was losing it, so it was getting squished down about half of its air pressure overnight. So I was not wanting that rim to sit down on that tire, and so I kept pumping it up. I'd pump it up at night, and then I'd pump it up the next morning, and just playing that game, keeping it going until I can get these, uh, trucks, the hay moved, and a spot where I could then take that off and go. But when they opened it up, they said that it had been patched before, and I knew it. I was pretty sure it had, because there's kind of a gash in the tire on the side of it, and it's never lost air. And that, well, they got a boot on there, big old patch on it, and probably an inner tube in there. And sure enough, that's exactly what it was. But they said that at one point, we bought this tractor used. And they said at one point this tire had been run flat, and so there was some rough spots on the inside. And when they put a tube in it, because it was a tubeless tire to begin with, when they put that tube in, they had kind of installed it a little bit incorrectly, and it had a crease in the tube.
Mm,
Well, and over time and rubbing on patches or rough spots, it's going to rub a hole into it. So,
yeah.
but it isn't like we're running this thing 1,500 hours a year or 2,000 hours a year. We're putting on 60, 75 hours a year. So to spend $2,000 for a tire versus, a couple hundred to get it repaired and repaired right so it'll stand up for another God knows how many years, I'm fine with that. It's the right thing to do. That's just a smart move, I think.
And then you said this is gonna result in another wonderful video.
Video, yeah.
So what are we gonna get out of that?
Well, not much other than just, it isn't like changing a tire on a car where you jack it up, and spin some lugs off. I mean, there's 12 big bolts on this that I have to break off with a breaker bar and get it unwound. And, this thing is almost as tall as I am, weighs several hundred pounds. And so I'm, just pulling it off the lift the tractor up, get it stable on some bunch of blocks, and and then pull the tire off, and then put more blocks up underneath the hub and set it down on it, and then get this thing loaded into a trailer and on our way. And actually, I got it loaded into a horse trailer. It wasn't bad.
What?
Yeah, stood up just inside the horse trailer, and I went, yeah, I'm going to just run that right up inside of there, and that way they can roll it right out. It was a whole lot easier than putting it on a flatbed or in the back of the pickup where it'd stick out
Yeah,
so far.
because
So,
then there's a lot of complications with that too.
oh yeah. So yeah, it was easy. I just put it down an ATV ramp and backed it up fairly close and kept it on its tread and muscled it around. And as it started kind of going away from the barn and shop area, it's got a kind of a slope, and it started picking up some speed, and I encouraged it a little bit, and then went just right up inside of the trailer, and then I just kind of got it stopped and laid it over and tied it up. Easy.
Yeah, that's a whole lot easier.
Then yeah, but then when it was done, those guys loaded it with a forklift, of
Yeah, of
course,
course.
and
Bunch
I
of
got
little
it
ladies.
home, and there was no way I was going to be able to do this by myself.
You had to
So your
wait for
brother,
Braden.
yeah, I had to wait for Braden, and he come over and we unloaded it and shimmied it up there, and then we had to spin it a little bit to get the valve stem in the right spot where it came off that hub. I wanted to have everything lined up right.
Naturally. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't bad. It wasn't like we had to spin it 180 degrees, but just a little bit. But it was not insignificant, the amount of effort it takes to
I
do
was gonna
that.
say you still had to put some good old fashioned man muscle
Oh
into it
yeah.
to get your
Oh yeah, and roll it up there and then drop the hub down so that the rim would sit kind of on the edge of the hub, and then jacked it up a little bit, and he pushed it on there, and we got one bolt in, and then lifted it up the rest of the way, and kind of barred it around so that it would line the holes up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just big work.
I find that funny too because I
Because you're in Kentucky. That's why it's so damn funny.
no,
You're not here
not
doing
funny,
it.
haha, but funny, interesting. Okay, I find it funny because there's in agriculture something that and I would say probably blue collar jobs in general. Like I'm thinking things like welding, fabricating, mechanic work, obviously agriculture. There is a careful nuance of throwing a whole lot of muscle into something and still just enough that you don't overdo it because you're trying to get it finessed onto a certain spot like you're talking about, trying to line up the hole with the tube and all that. Oh yeah, it's like, wow, this thing's a couple 100 pounds, but we just got to move it just a little bit.
Right. Yeah, you cheat any way you can, but I was sure your mom was asking me how I did it. Of course, then I have to go full disclosure that I did it by myself,
No, you don't.
which never makes her happy.
Just tell her the
Um,
pug helped.
yeah, well, that
She'll be
she
like, "Oh,
would
he
say
was such a good boy."
well, then she'd say I endangered him if I did that.
Oh, that's true too.
So you got to
Well,
pick your battle.
tell her you got help from that what is it, Tawny the Terrible, her new
Oh
best
yeah, the
friend.
new cat. Yeah, but no. So I showed her the video, that portion of the video that I pulled it off of there, that and then rocked it back and forth to get it away from the tractor, and I think I was muttering to myself something about how I'm not as young as I used to be, but my brain still thinks I am or something. And she just looks at me and like, "Why didn't you wait?" But
Like it's like that Toby
shit,
Keith song, "I ain't as good as I once was."
yeah, that's about right.
Uh,
That's about true.
oh,
So yeah, then
geez.
got it in there, and of course, then the tractor's sitting on just the jack and blocks, and
Right.
so I got it
Naturally.
loaded, and then set it in there, and it wasn't going anywhere. So I go and I block it up and get some timbers under there, cement block, and then timbers, and then some plank under that, so I can put the half of the weight on the hub and then half of the weight on the jack that's underneath of the axle. So yeah, it worked out. It's good. Now I got to find a torque wrench. I can't find a torque wrench that I can torque. The torque spec on that is for those bolts is 355 foot-pounds. The biggest torque wrench I got here is 150. So I've got a couple of calls to neighbors and looking for it, because I know they're running big John Deere tractors like
Yeah.
that too, and big New Hollands or big cases, whatever, and still takes a big torque wrench. So
Yeah.
there's one that's about 65 miles away, but I don't need this thing for a couple of days yet. So if it gets to be crunch time, I may have to run down somewhere and pick up one that's 60 some miles away. But it beats buying one and using it once every 10 years. I mean, that's just foolish.
Yeah. No, exactly.
So, but you want to torque these right. You don't want that wheel coming
No.
off. That'd be bad.
Especially
Breaking
because
some parts. I think we
God
experienced
forbid.
that this summer, right?
What?
We experienced that this summer with the pickup. lugs not
Um,
being torqued on that
yeah,
when you
yeah, we
came home.
did. But I was thinking like, God forbid something's happening where you're moving a bale, right? And you're going down towards like for whatever reason, going down towards the water well or what the well is where the intake is for the spring,
Mhm.
and you got it front end and all of a sudden it drops, and I mean you could get yourself at minimum seriously hurt. Worst
Well,
case scenario killed if something, if it
yeah.
rolled over and something, you never
Well, you
know.
think about it this way: if you're picking some of these bales we have
1200.
are they're 3 foot deep, 3 foot by 4 foot by 8 foot. See, it's the big squares, for instance.
Yeah.
So, I've got them laying on the 4 foot by 8 foot side is laying down, and I'm stabbing them with our forks that we built through the 3 foot side. But you're up there 15 feet in the air at the top of that bale because I'm stacking them 5 high. So in the middle of that, you're grabbing that thing at about 13 feet or so and pulling it off the top of a stack way above you. So your center of gravity is way high. And you start to back that thing up, and something snaps or breaks on the back of that tractor tire. That
Yeah.
whole back end is going to come down. Your center of gravity is up. You're going to roll that thing on its side. I mean,
Yep.
it's just you're going to flop it all over. So yeah, if your center of gravity is low, and most of your weight's on your front axles, yeah, you've got some weight there that's reduced, but it's still a lot of weight. And I think that tractor would still come over.
I
I
think
would
it
just
would too.
flop over on its side. Yeah, it wouldn't go over backwards necessarily, but it would dang sure go over on its side.
The other big event of the evening. No, I'm just kidding. The other big event of the fall is butcher steers, butcher
Oh, yeah.
animals. What do we got? I saw you. I happened to be working on the computer this morning, and I saw you working on the ranch stuff. It was in. I was snooping into what you were doing.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
you're playing with the butcher log of all the animals and stuff like that, and putting
Yeah.
the information in, deleting
Yeah.
some stuff that didn't need to be in there anymore. What do we have? Steers, bulls, heifers, a little bit of all. What?
Well, with this batch, a couple of steers and a virgin bull, and
Okay.
the virgin bull just happened to be that way because had a single testicle from last year and held him over that. Yeah, we'll just butcher him, and because I didn't want to complicate things by putting a band on him and having another testicle there, so we kept
Right.
him. And we butchered virgin bulls before, and people sometimes like that. And you know what? There's nothing like being able to experience what somebody else wants, so that you can tell them whether they want it or not. And I'll tell
Right.
you what, this virgin bull, butchering one of these guys is a lot of meat. It's a little bit leaner, but the
Is
one
it?
we had last year,
That kind
yeah,
of kind of
because you got
surprised me.
mostly,
Oh,
well, no, you got mostly muscle.
yeah. No,
Takes a,
not a
but
lot of fat like a cow would. So
right,
yeah.
heifers will, you can fatten a heifer pretty easily. You can over fatten them. The steers they look really good. I think there's going to be some very good marbling in them. Um, they got a little fat pocket in front of their
Flank.
flank. Their tail head is all kind of flat, and they're flat across the back. And they even were developing cankles, so briskets were coming pretty
Nice.
nicely on the one. The other one didn't really develop a brisket as much, which is, and like the butcher said, sometimes you see that if you only go by that, you're gonna miss it because you can over fatten them, and some of them just don't develop a decent brisket. But the bull and the one steer did. Um, so yeah, they went to town. We took them to the butcher yesterday, and so
Oh,
they were harvested this morning, and so they'll be giving me some weights. But I was one of those deals. I was up at 2:30 this morning. I couldn't sleep, so
I
I
saw.
thought, well, yeah, I'll get on the. Yeah, we share some documents sometimes for the ranch stuff, and if you're on there and I'm not on there, you see me messing around on it.
Hmm.
And so I was just updating, try to take meticulous records of what we do, how many days we feed these guys, what we feed them, how much we feed per day to warm them up, what's the maximum feeds. And then, so this time, last year, we did just wet cob, corn oats and barley with molasses in it. This year, I went with a pelleted feed. It was actually a little bit cheaper. I want to try to make that meat um, a little bit more sweet, have a sweeter taste to it, just a real more delectable, what we're all looking for. You can do that, or you can fry it in butter.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? So I was just trying to do that, and we got a mix in there with something we hadn't fed before. And then and I fed him for 66 days. Got him up, started him about 5 pounds a day, got him up to 10 pounds a day per animal. And then that last 2 weeks, I added 5 pounds of that cob to it, wet cob, just to give him a little bit extra boost. So last couple of weeks, we're feeding 15 pounds in the evening, or five in the morning of the pelleted feed, and then 5 of the pelleted feed in the evening with 5 pounds of cob on top of that. And they were liking that. Every time you come out there, they'll run to you. So they were liking that feed, even the pelleted stuff. They were really liking it. So loading them up, we just had a bucket in front of us and walked them right up into the trailer. So that was pretty easy, pretty nice.
Yeah, it'll be
So
interesting
yeah,
to
they're
see
in
how
really
they.
good shape. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they taste. I'm looking. I got this log I can open up
But
and
but
just
yeah,
taste.
these records, I try to keep really meticulous records so that we can tell when they were butchered, so you can backdate what was it, wintertime? Was it early spring you were
Yeah,
feeding them? Was it summer? Was it fall? How much? What did you do? And then what their carcass weight will be. All of those kinds of things so that you can duplicate it or you can improve on it a little bit. And like the heifer we had this spring, we sold her. I think I fed her like the butcher said. He said, yeah, she had just a little bit more top fat, probably
yeah,
over fattened her a little bit. I mean, they can cut it with a fork.
yeah.
They
Your
love, and
log,
it's really good.
the well, so I mean anybody knows it went to a cousin who lives nearby.
Right.
She bought him. The live weight was 1540, so alive she was 1,540 pounds, and then rail, so entrails, everything removed, well, she was 936 pounds. Keep in mind that's still with bone in. And she was finished with 60 days of the wet cob you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you said you fed her for 60 days from March 2000, or sorry, March 27th of this year. And then it said there was lots of fat that you're talking about, the butcher told you, and it could be cut back to 50 to 53 days, probably due to the sex of the animal, which that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Heifers.
kind of the detailed stuff that you put in there.
Yeah, and that way, if something hits to me, happens to me, I get hit by the beer truck. You guys can look and say, okay, what did he do?
Right.
Really, and it's for my own records too, because over, several years ago, okay, what did we do there? And you wish you had written that down. Well, don't wish, just do it.
Right. Well,
So
and
that
this
was one of those. That was a task this morning at 2:30, says because I couldn't sleep. So you get up and you do things like that. It's a good time to do it. Clean those
Well, this
records
is
up.
helpful too because we had the Virgin Bull last year. It says it was harvested into that October 2021. Everybody else's had steers or heifers.
Hmm.
And then this new one today is the next Virgin Bull, and he was harvested, you said, this morning. So it'll be good to see the taste of those two bulls compared to everything else. And then you can, like you said, tell clients or customers, this is what we experience. This is what we enjoy with our meat. Sometimes, it's like whiskey, wine, beer, our preference is this. So if you're kind of in that realm, maybe you would enjoy this. If not, maybe we can direct you that way. So it's
Well,
helpful.
and yeah, and it's kind of the next step between a grain-fed animal and a totally grass-fed animal.
Right.
If you're going to have more muscle and a little less marbling, but not as lean as a just strictly grass-fed animal, which is not as tender, has its own taste with the grass, which is fine, but um, not going to be as uh, fall in your part in your mouth and easy to cut type of meat. But if you're interested in that kind of super lean venison style type meat, it's very much like that with your grass fat. But this kind of fits a niche in between. And uh, frankly, that bull, they develop that meat and the density much faster than these steers being the same age. And he's significantly heavier than those steers are. So I'll bet you he outweighs him by 300 pounds.
Now, I'm noticing in your log normally you do 60 days. So the heifer earlier today was 60 days, and you said you could be cut back to what, 50 to 53 days? Yeah, 50 to
Yeah,
53 days.
yeah, a week to 10 days less. I would go, I think what I would do is just not feed her for probably a week less
Yeah.
because you're looking at 2.5, 3 pounds per day of gain. So if you did that over 10 days, you know, you're looking at 30 pounds or so,
Now
and that can make
the
a big
question
difference.
to that though was that, she was 60 days. These guys that you just sent in today, the two steers and the bull, you fed for 66 days. Was there a reason for the 6 day increase?
Yeah, a little bit. I warmed them up with that feed up to 10 pounds a day over that first week, which was
Oh,
pretty fast.
right,
You should go for a week, at 5 pounds and then maybe increase it to 7 pounds. And I did that incrementally, but I only did it every couple of days apart, about three
right.
days apart instead of a week. And so I kind of added about 6 days a week onto that on the lead edge of that. So I just want to see how it does because I wanted to get as much through them as I could. And then I figured about I don't remember how much weight I figured 1,200 pounds of cob at feeding about 20 pounds a day, 25 pounds a day. And then these guys were 10 pounds, but it's a pelleted feed that we hadn't used before. So I'm like kind of wanted to give a little bit more days in there, add some cob to it because I hadn't experienced it. But when you got a butcher date, you can't just
Right.
call and say, hey, can you
Can't
wait
change that.
another 10 days? Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it turned out right. It turned out well. So and the guy that was that fed me the or sold us his feed, he and I talked quite a bit about what I was wanting to do and how much time and stuff. And he was a good resource for that. He's done a lot of that. So that was a good thing.
What's your next mark? Are you gonna stick at about 66, or are you gonna try and push to 75 this next go around?
Well, we'll see how they taste. See how tender they are. I mean, we're
It's
not
gonna
done
enter.
yet. We gotta find out what the final product is. You can tell
Yeah.
by looking at them, but I want to see what we've got. So, we were talking about cattle going to town, going to market, and we'll save some back. There's going to be probably 5 head, 6 head. We'll see that we're going to save, and we will feed through the winter so that we can do a ranch to table, like we've done with this. People are able to buy this meat a hell of a lot cheaper than they can over
Right.
a counter, and we'll get a little bit more for them by doing this.
Which should be good for people to hear because this year we had four total head, three today, and then the one in the spring. The one in the spring was simply due to the culling. Braden kind of made
Yeah,
an observation, a suggestion, and Dad took that. Otherwise, there would have been just three. So the good thing is, if anybody isn't, they've seen us, they know who we are, and we're kind of in their area. They got opportunities potentially to pick up some of our meat. So that's good. That's
well, and
we're
and the other,
slowly growing it to a point
yeah,
where we can support it because we don't want to overextend and have
right.
10 animals, then we can't support it. So
Yeah, that'd be foolish. And what we'll do is, when we preg test, if we have a heifer again that is not pregnant, she's got to go to town. We may
yeah,
just keep her, feed her up, and have something available for the spring. So
right,
you've got a spring timeline, and then you've also got your fall timeline. So next fall we'll have animals ready. I think November is when they'll be ready to go to the butcher next year. That's the butcher
right.
date. So, and that's the thing, you got to squeeze these in when you can because the butchers are, I mean, they're full.
Right.
A
And
lot of people are doing the same thing.
we've
It's
said
a
it
good
before,
thing,
but it is important that there are butchers that are a year to a year and a half out in
right?
scheduling. So you better make that date and stick
Yeah.
to it.
Well, and one of the things that we're doing that's a little bit different, we're usually butchering these animals at 18 to 20 months, and that
Right.
generally it's an 18 to 36 month or
Yeah.
40-month, timeline. But
Oh,
by doing
she
it
was 36.
at this 18 to 20 months, you're getting the minimum. You're getting a good growth. You're getting a lot of good dense meat with some good tasting, tender type of qualities to it, but you're not having to spend an extra bunch of money for another 150 pounds of meat or so.
Right. Right.
We're trying to make it so it's affordable to people with like a prime piece of meat, or really, I'm not saying prime grade, but a very good piece of meat that they can put in their freezer and end up with 350 pounds of fresh meat. That's a that's a good deal for them, and or even more, 350, 400, whatever it turns out to be on the animal. But it isn't like they're having to spend a whole lot more, a ton more for the same amount of meat because it is about storage as well.
Right.
And bigger you get, the bigger bone you get. So you're buying more bone.
The thing I have been looking forward to talking about the most is this wonderful video that I spent so much time putting together and laughing my butt off with my mother. Dad, have you heard about this video?
She said something that you guys were putting a deal together, and it was about characteristics, traits of
Yeah,
ours.
yeah,
Yeah, something. Yeah, she said it was. She said that I would go my head in my hand, but she said I would appreciate it because it's true.
yeah, it is.
So,
So I'll tell you what it is. I'd like to know maybe some of your thoughts as to what you think we came up with. So here's what I'll say. It'll come out. It's already posted and everything. It'll come out December 10th for anybody interested. So mark it on your calendars. I really truly enjoyed it because it was just funny and hilarious. But the thing is, it was a draft. So I provided a theme, and mom and I had 5 picks. So top 10 things that happened. And this is and what we would do is, first pick was mom, and she had to try and think of the thing that was the most likely to happen when we're doing something, right? And then I had to
okay.
do the second pick, and then we did a snake draft. So I had second and third, she had fourth, fifth, I had sixth, seventh, so on and so forth until we
Well,
got to number 10.
It's got to be pretty predictable when you're working cattle. Somebody's going to get their little feeler hurt.
Okay, so the theme was uh when you're building things with dad. What happens? That was the question. What happens when you're building things with dad? So I would love to know, what were some of your ideas that we may or may not have come up with that you would have probably, had you been part of this draft,
Well, your
you
first
would
thing
have
you got to
proposed?
do is you got to take the tools away from your mother because nothing's going to be cut straight.
Nope, close, but no cigar.
Things aren't measured right. They're close. And close
Oh,
doesn't count it. Yeah, there you go. We've done this before.
anything else? Oh,
Uh, I don't know. There's so many things that um everything's got to be square with me, and it's not with her. She's just
you're hitting like 2 things with that comment, but yeah.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
square, plumb. Um, it's just got to be done right so it looks good, not just thrown together. And when I build it, usually a nuclear blast would not knock it over.
Okay. It's already posted. Like I said, mom has the link, so because you have the link, you can see it. Nobody else can
Yeah,
until it's actually released. But
I'll
you
have to
should
go
watch
look
it,
at it.
and
Okay.
you should tell me what you think. With that, we covered the happenings of the Hashknife Ranch for this fall. What was it? Oh goodness, preconditioning, marking those calves, getting ready for hay, getting hay, dealing with that, the tire issue that'll probably end up being a video here pretty soon, taking butchers and taking the bull and the steers to butcher, and then of course a quick little laugh with the upcoming draft video. So with that, I'll hang it over to Dad and let him finish.
Well, I guess it's the same old thing. We thank you till you're better paid.